So if you would like permission to record, just let me know. And I think if your audio is turned off, I believe that I have the setting where you can just push your space bar, I think, to be able to allow your audio in, I think. You guys will have to let me know that.
Yeah, it's set up that way.
Okay. Okay. So I have one student whose name right now is iPhone. Izzy, I think that's you.
Yeah, it is. I'm
You know how to
trying
change
to
it?
like figure this thing out.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah,
Totally
I
get
think
it.
I just go to my setting.
Oh wait, actually I think I can
Okay.
rename it. I'll do it.
You can?
Uh-huh.
All right. Thank
Okay,
you.
I got it. You're welcome. Thank you. And again, if somebody wants to record the session, I am recording and I will get a link to that, but that probably won't occur until later on this afternoon or early this evening, because I have to compress it first, load it on YouTube, and then send you guys a link out. So if you want to record just to have your own copy, that's totally fine. That doesn't bother me. We'll wait just another second here, or 2 minutes or whatever, just to let a few more people get connected. And I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the iPad. All right. 5, 6, 7, 8, and 10. Looks like I have 11 people right now. How did the password thing go? Was that okay? You might have to press your space bar. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So I read an article about Zoom and people hacking into the groups, and so I thought I would make a password just to try to prevent that from happening.
Oh no, someone's going to join a math group. They're going to learn math.
Well, actually, when they joined the math group, they did not do very nice things. So I was trying to be preemptive in my, yeah, you get the idea.
Yeah, of course.
While we're waiting on a few more people to join, can you guys do me a favor? So later on today in this session, we're going to be talking about the test. I would like to get a feel. So I'm considering, very seriously considering proctoring via Zoom, where I would actually be using your video. So I would be basically watching you like I do in the classroom, only I would just be watching you on video. So can everybody help me out and let's attempt this? I'd like to be able to see whether or not I can see everyone. I know right now everyone has his camera turned off, which is fine. you may, you may not look the best this morning, but you know what? Join me in that. My hair is still wet from the shower, so it is okay. This is what we have to deal with. So can you just turn on your video? You don't have to leave it on the whole session, but can you turn it on just to make sure? Good, good, good so far.
I don't have a webcam.
Is that you, Victor?
Yeah, that's me.
Okay, so Victor, would you be able to sign in with your phone?
Okay, but it might be really, really, like I would barely like see the screen and everything. I would not be able to see much.
That's okay. So what I'm thinking about doing, Victor, and I don't want to go into this heavily right now because I want to give more people a chance to get here. But what I'm seriously considering doing is having everybody sign in on his phone. Because we would not actually be having a session. The phone would simply be so that I can watch you. And then, so I wouldn't care so much about audio or anything like that. I would just need to be able to see you. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So you don't have to try it right this moment, but I would say that sometime between now and the test, let's make sure that we run a trial run with your phone. If you're not using your phone, or if you haven't used your phone, then let's run a trial run, and we can try to figure that out. Okay. So right now we're just trying to make the best with what we have. So let's see. Mary Elise, are you able to use video? Or Mac, I haven't seen your video yet. Are you able to use video? And again, Mac, if you're talking, you might need to push your space bar to be able to allow your audio through.
No, I'm on my phone right now. It's just that I'm at work. So
I gotcha.
that's why I haven't turned on my video.
I got it. So Mac, are you able to do video and you're just not doing video right now?
Yes, I'm able to do video, but is the test going to be like at this time on Wednesday?
That's something that we need to discuss. We will be discussing that after I take some math questions today.
Yeah, because I work at a special needs school, and I'm actually delivering food for the kids that go to my school at this time.
Right, right. So, so yeah, we will discuss that. And Mac, if you and I need to have a personal conversation, we can do that. Let's see, Jonathan, did I see your video? Whew, that was really loud.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay. Who did it? There was, I saw, there's Jonathan. Okay. Okay. So I totally understand me seeing the top of your head, especially if you're still in bed because this is early. Okay. So I think I've pretty much seen everybody. You're welcome to leave your video on, or you are welcome to turn that off. That's totally up to you. But like I said, we'll talk about the test in just a little bit. So let's go ahead and just begin our session. So the first thing I want to talk about is the fact that I have covered all material at this point. Okay, so all material is finished as far as chapter 10 is concerned. And so at this point, you have everything that I would have covered in the classroom to be able to take the test on chapter 10. So what I want to open the floor with right now is questions that you have from, hang on just a second, questions that you have from chapter 10. I have the schedule up here, and that's what I brought up first. We'll be discussing that, but you do notice that our test is scheduled for Wednesday the 25th, which is the day after tomorrow. And like I said, I've got some ideas about that, but I will be discussing that after I take your questions. So let's go ahead. Let me ask you first, what questions do you have for me this morning? And don't forget, if you want to use your audio, you might have to push your space bar.
Is this about just 10.5 or any of the chapters on the test?
Yeah, it's about anything, honestly. So the test itself will remember that the last test went through 10.1, and so this test will start at 10.2. So it'll be 10.2 through 10.5.
Can we ask you to do like examples?
Yeah, you can, absolutely. And if you need to share your screen, I believe there's a button for that at the bottom. Like if there's something that you have written out and you want to show it, I believe that you can share your screen through the bottom. It might request permission or something like that. Let me see, I'll push it and see. You cannot start screen share while the other participant is sharing. So I would have to stop screen sharing, so you just have to let me know that. But yeah, you can ask questions. Now, for some of these questions, I might direct you back to the video because I have done an example exactly like it in the video. And you know what, folks, you guys, as hard as this is right now, as much of a pain as this is right now, it's actually, you have an advantage that you haven't had before. And that is when you've got a recorded lesson, which at this point I have sent you every single lesson that's been recorded. So basically last Monday and last Wednesday, you've got lesson videos. And not only that, I even sent you a recording for the Wednesday previous to that. So you have lesson videos. You've never been able to go back and just rewatch a lesson or rewind a lesson before. What you got in class was what you got in class. So you actually have an advantage on that. I know that it might not make up for all the other stuff, but you do have the advantage of being able to go back and watch a lesson, and you've never had that advantage before. So some of your questions, I might direct you back to a specific example. So just be aware of that. But go for it. The floor is yours.
For, you know how like you have to like draw the triangle and like, can you do an example of like where the given is like a tangent?
Sure.
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. So tell you what I'll do. I will just simply come up with a blank note. So something not from the notes or anything, not from the videos. Okay, so Andrew, you're given, you said is a tangent?
Yeah.
Okay, so tangent, what's my angle name?
Can do X.
Okay, tangent of X is equal to?
On the one I saw, it said like the square root of 10. And
Yeah.
Okay, and then you would have had to have been given a second piece of information?
I think it was the 0 is less than X, and then X is less than, or it's between 0 and pi over 2.
Okay. So, and, so,
And you're looking for the cosine of X over 2.
gotcha. Okay, so the first thing is, I don't really care so much about what I'm looking for immediately. Let's just get the triangle drawn. And so this is an all students take calculus concept. So the first thing is, let's go ahead and figure out, where is tangent positive? And this is for anybody. Just because Andrew and Ryan asked the question doesn't mean that you guys cannot participate. So go ahead. Where is tangent positive?
First and third.
Okay, first and third. But then they even gave us more information and said that my angle X has to be in the first quadrant because of the fact that it is between 0 and pi over 2. So we'll go ahead and we'll draw a triangle in first quadrant. All right. And what does SOHCAHTOA say about tangent?
Sine over cosine.
But what is, and that is absolutely correct. What does SOHCAHTOA say though about tangent?
Opposite over adjacent.
Yeah, opposite over adjacent. And remember that our angle is always at the origin. So go ahead back to your tangent guy, and you actually need a fraction here. So just throw it over 1. Okay. And now you have your opposite and you have your adjacent. So then all you would need to do is perform the Pythagorean theorem to find your hypotenuse. So 1 squared is 1, square root of 10 squared is 10. So my hypotenuse then will be the square root of 11. So Andrew and Ryan, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So then I'm not going to do the whole question because I think that was basically the gist of the question.
Yeah, it was.
But if I were to start on the second part of the question, remember, this is where I told you guys, hide your picture, hide your kids, hide your wife, hide everything. Come up with a formula. I think you said that it was the cosine of x over 2, if I remember correctly, Andrew? Is that correct?
That's it.
Yeah, so then what I would just do is I would write my formula down, which was going to be plus or minus the square root of a fraction 1 plus cosine of x all over 2. And so at that point then, once I have my formula written down, I would use my picture to plug into that formula.
Okay.
Now, let me make one more comment about this. If this restriction was different, if it was a third quadrant, if it had said that my angle is between pi and 3 pi over 2, then what you need to understand is that this wouldn't have looked any different. And the biggest mistake that students make on this, so let me just draw something here. If it had told me to draw it in the third quadrant, what do you think is the biggest mistake that students make on that when they draw the triangle? Anybody?
They don't include the negative? Or?
Absolutely. So then this would be a negative root 10, and this would be a negative 1. Negative on the root 10 because it's going down, negative on the 1 because it's going left. Okay, and so that would be the most common careless error that students make, is not seeing any negatives over here and forgetting to look at their picture to remember that there are actually negatives involved. I'm going to erase that because it's not actually there according to this question.
Like, can there actually be two answers though?
Not according to this restriction. Is that what you mean, Victor? Or are you talking about because the plus or minus?
No, I mean, like, so if they made the whole range up to the third quadrant, could they make it, like, would it be 2 answers then?
Yeah, so they're never going to make the whole range up to the third quadrant. I'm sorry, I only verbalized it. I didn't write it down. But if it had been what I was suggesting, it actually would have said that my x is between pi and 3 pi over 2. So I would have only been restricted to just the third quadrant. Does that make sense, Victor?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Okay. One more comment about this. I kind of keep thinking of things. You might have been told that, okay, so let's pretend that it didn't tell us this. Let's pretend that the second piece of information said something like sine of x is less than 0. Okay, so in that particular case, if this was my given information, what would my thought process have been to go about drawing my picture correctly?
When sine is negative.
Mm-hmm. So where is sine negative?
3 and 4.
Yeah. So then my first question to you a few minutes ago was, where is tangent positive? And you told me quadrants 1 and 3. And then now if I'm looking at a sine value that's negative, you just told me quadrants 3 and 4. Where would my picture have been drawn?
3.
Yeah. So does that help a little bit further?
Oh yeah.
Okay, good. All right, any other questions that you might have?
Well, I actually had a concern with this same one. I believe in the video, there was a certain spot where you said that we didn't have to go any further because, like, if you had a square root in the denominator under a square root.
Yes, a square root within a square root in the denominator.
Now, if I might be mistaken, but I think in the demonstrate, it wanted us to go like all the way.
Did you try entering in the answer without going all the way? Did it accept it?
I actually had so much trouble with this one problem that I
Gotcha.
I had to go back to the practice to see exactly how they wanted it.
Gotcha. So 2 comments on that, Ryan. First thing is I would go ahead and try to enter in the answer that you were thinking. Now, this particular question, Ryan, would not have had a square root within a square root in the denominator. That's only going to occur if you have a tangent over here. That's the only time that's going to occur. Okay, so since this is a cosine question, I know that that's not going to be the case on this one. But if you,
okay.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, so in that case, I would expect you to either rationalize the denominator or simplify the denominator. So like sometimes if your denominator ends up being the square root of 16, I would expect you to write that as a 4.
Right.
But, and if your denominator ended up being the square root of 5, I would have expected you to rationalize the denominator on that the way that we have in previous chapters. But the only time you should run into that root within a root on the bottom is when you run into tangent questions.
Okay.
Okay. But then, so to take that again a little further on my lab, if you run into that and you truly feel like you're entering it incorrectly, I thought that my lab accepted the unsimplified version. Can anybody confirm or deny that?
I had to simplify all the way also.
It made you go all the way?
Yeah, it did.
It counted it wrong if you didn't?
Yep.
Did it come up with a pop-up box that says, even though your answer is equal to the correct answer, blah, 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 blah?
I'm not sure. I forgot about. I forgot to check that.
Okay. Okay. Because a lot of times, if it is equal to the answer, it's just in what they consider an unsimplified format. It'll pop up with, your answer is equal to the correct answer. However, it hasn't been simplified or something along those lines. So, all right, good questions. What else do you have?
In the 10.5,
Uh-huh.
can we do one where the terms are not the same?
Where the terms are not the same. Can you give me an example, Andrew?
Yeah.
Sure.
Like this one says 3 sine squared x cosine x minus 3 cosine x.
Equals?
0.
Okay.
And
Okay, so this next question is for everybody. What are some of my methods for solving trig equations? What are some of my methods that I gave you guys in the video?
Factoring.
Okay, so factoring is one option. If you're going to use factoring, you have to have equals 0 on one side. What's another method?
Quadratic
Combine.
formula.
Okay, so quadratic formula, puke, but sometimes it might need to be used. Okay, what else?
trig identities.
Yeah, trig identities. Okay, so a couple of comments here. My brain goes in two different directions on this one. Trig identities is one thing that my brain says, like maybe I could turn my sine squared into a 1 minus cosine squared using my Pythagorean identities. But then the other side of my brain says, let's just try to factor out the GCF. Notice that you've got two terms here. You've got this guy as a term, and then you have the negative 3 cosine x as a term. Let's just see what happens when we factor, and we'll go from there. So what is my GCF in these two terms? What's common?
X.
The cosine x.
Okay, there's a little bit more.
Oh, 3. 3
Yeah.
cosine x. Yeah.
Yes, so let's factor out a 3 cosine x. So if I take a 3 cosine x out of the first term, what's left over? You're just
Sine squared
dividing.
x.
Yeah, sine squared x. And then if I take a 3 cosine x out of the next term, what's left over?
1.
Close. Don't forget your negative.
Oh, negative 1.
Negative.
So then what I could do is I could use my zero product property where I set each piece equal to 0 and solve that way. So if I have 3 cosine of x is equal to 0, or sine squared of x minus 1 is equal to 0. For the first piece, if I divide on both sides by 3, 0 divided by 3 is just going to be 0. So this is the same thing as cosine of x equals 0. So if you've got your unit circle out, where does cosine equal 0?
Pi? Is it?
Cosine is equal to negative 1 at pi.
Oh.
Remember that cosine is your x value.
Then at 0?
At 0, cosine is equal to positive 1.
I'm lost.
You're looking for an x value of 0. You're giving me y values of 0.
Pi over 2, right?
Oh.
Pi over 2. That's one
Yeah,
spot.
okay.
And where else?
3 pi over 2.
Yeah. And now, Andrew, you're the one that had the directions in front of you. Did this particular question, it should have given you a restriction?
Yes. 0 including 0, and then 2 pi not including 2 pi.
Okay, so we're working so that tells us that we're working in radians, and it also tells us how much of the radians that we're using. So I know then that my x value, you guys just told me, was pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2. Those are my two x values for that piece. So then let's go over to the other side. And so let's just solve, let's get our trig function alone, like the video said. So we have sine squared of x is equal to 1. How do you get rid of squares?
Square root.
Good, square root. So we're going to square root both sides. And I believe I said in the video, I gave you guys a warning about anytime you square root both sides, what do you need to remember?
Plus or minus.
Yeah, the plus or minus. So then we have that sine of x is equal to either a positive 1 or sine of x is equal to a negative 1. Okay, so just be aware that there are those two options there. So where, looking at your unit circle again, where is my sine value equal to 1?
Same place.
Mm-hmm. The pi over 2. And where does it equal negative 1? Down at 3 pi over 2. So my answers here are duplicates, and I don't have to type them in twice.
Could you just change the sine squared x minus 1 to cosine squared x and then
You
just
sure could.
squared?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And just take the square root of cosine squared. Take the square root of 0. Positive or negative 0 doesn't matter. So yeah, you just have a cosine equals 0. Absolutely. Absolutely. Great question. All right. What else?
A question regarding the test. What will be included in a, or are we even going to have a formula sheet?
Whew. So let's talk about that. So if this is the first time you've joined a Zoom meeting, we time out at 40 minutes, and I have 6 minutes left. So, well, 6 to 7 minutes left. If you're able to see that. So I'm going to put you off a little bit, Ryan. What we'll do is I'll take any other questions that you have in this last 6 minutes. And then when we re-sign in, I will actually discuss the test and answer that question inside of that.
Awesome.
Just don't let me forget, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Anything else? Math question? Non-test question? Anything on the videos that just really threw you for a loop? Andrew, did you have a question? Sorry, I think I might have interrupted you.
No, you're good. I mean, I'll continue asking if no one else has anything.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions? Andrew has another one. Anybody else? All right, go ahead, Andrew.
It's kind of like the other one, but this one's like in degrees, and
Okay.
it says, well, it's 0 and 360, but
Okay.
13 sine squared theta minus 6 sine theta equals 5.
Okay, so instead of writing equals 5, Andrew, I'm going to go ahead and do minus 5 equals 0.
Okay.
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 What are your all's thoughts on this one?
Is that 13 sine?
It's a 13 sine squared, yes.
Okay.
Does that help a little bit?
Yes.
What are your all's thoughts on this? I'll make my lines bigger too. That'll make me write bigger.
Is this
I
a
would use the quadratic formula?
Yeah. So
what it
the
looks
first
like.
thing I tried to do was factor, but there's no way that I can get two factors that will work. So this guy is unfactorable. So yeah, I'm gonna just have to use the quadratic formula on this, which this is my A value, this is my B value, this is my C value. Okay, so here we go. Sine theta. Remember, the quadratic formula usually starts out with x equals, but it's sine theta that I'm trying to isolate here. So sine theta is equal to negative b, so that's 6, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so that's going to be 36, minus, so there was my b squared minus 4, a is 13, c is negative 5, all over 2a, so that's going to be 2 times 13 or 26. Okay, so so does that make sense, first of all, y'all?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm crunching into my calculator here, just for the inside, and I get 6 plus or minus the square root of 296 all over 26. Now, normally, just because I'm a geek, I would go ahead and simplify the square root of 296, but it's not really all that necessary because I am going to use my calculator in the long run. So just see this as two separate questions. I've got sine theta is equal to 6 plus root 296 all over 26, or sine theta equals 6 minus square root of 296 all over 26. Okay. So now I've got, on this side, I'm coming up with a plan. I can tell that this guy is positive because everything inside of it is positive. So where is my sine value positive? I'm looking at quadrants 1 and 2.
Yes, 1 and 2.
Okay. And then if I go to the other one, I know that this is negative, and you say, well, how do you know it's negative? Well, I know that 6 is the same thing as the square root of 36. And so if this is the square root of 36, this is way larger than that. So I have a negative number on top divided by a positive number on bottom. So sine is going to be negative then in quadrants 3 and 4. Andrew, you said I'm working in degrees, right?
Yeah.
Okay. By the way, Andrew, am I doing your homework for you?
No.
Okay, just making sure. Okay, so Zoom is telling me I have less than a minute. So this is a good breaking point. Let's go ahead, folks. I'm going to leave the meeting and then just join right back in, okay? So I'm going to end this meeting. I'll see you right back. I didn't give anybody re-signed up for permission. Does anybody need or want permission for recording? Everybody okay?
I'm good.
Okay. So I think I've got everybody back. Let me just take one more look just to make sure here. Be sure I've got everybody. 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay, sounds good. Looks good. Okay, so getting back then real quick into this question, we'll finish this one up and then we can talk about the test. Remember, what is it, folks, that finds angles?
Inverses.
Yeah, inverses find angles. So what I'm going to need to do then is, for my calculator, I'm going to need to type in sine inverse of this ugliness here. Now, I'll tell you the most common mistake right here. And folks, if you've got your calculator, I would be punching this in right here, right now. The most common mistake is not putting a set of parentheses around the entire numerator. Number one most common mistake. Okay, so your entire numerator must be in its own set of parentheses. So since I don't know the answer to this question, I haven't actually done this particular question before. Let's go ahead and type it in. So let me try, if I show you my calculator screen.
Said I had an error. All right.
Okay, we'll take a look at that in just a second, Andrew. All right, so this is what my calculator screen looks like. Okay, now that's reading it backwards to me. Is it reading it forwards to you guys? Or is it backwards?
I actually can't see anything but your screen.
Oh, you can't?
I don't know.
Oh, maybe it's because I'm sharing my screen. Okay, that's all right. Andrew, I got 63 something
No.
degrees.
That's what I got. I messed up on something.
Okay.
Go get my
So did you guys all get 63.1874?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 63.1874 degrees. Question, how am I going to get, now this is going to take some thought, so don't just spout off an answer. How am I going to get that second quadrant plan? We've done this before, but it was back in chapter 9 that we did this.
Don't you add 90 or something?
Wouldn't you
No.
subtract it from 180?
Why would you subtract it from 180, Ryan?
I don't really know how to explain it, but that's what sounds right.
Okay, so in order to get to my first quadrant answer, I had to go up 63 degrees. In order to get to my second quadrant angle, I also need to go up from the x-axis up 63 degrees. And so that's going to be 180 minus that 63 degree angle. So go ahead in your calculator and just do 180 minus your answer.
Now, if you wanted to get to like quadrant 3, wouldn't you add 180?
From the first quadrant?
Yes.
So that would be done for tangent and cotangent questions. And yes, you would add 180 because it's going to be directly across the circle.
Okay.
So I got 116.8126 degrees for your second quadrant angle. Okay. Now, to type in the second round, all I like to do is just do second enter, and you have to do it twice, where it brings up the last thing. And I'm just going to change my 6 plus into a 6 minus. And what are you guys getting?
I got a negative 25.5277.
I did as well. Which is what kind of angle, or which quadrant is this in?
4.
Quadrant 4. So that does look like my picture plan. But Andrew, can you remind us all, what was the restriction on this?
0 and 36, not including, or 360, not including 360.
So then this plan doesn't work well with the answer that I have, because negative 25 is not in that restriction. So how am I going to find my fourth quadrant angle? How am I going to find my third quadrant angle?
Third.
You add 25, that number to 180.
Good, Victor. Why?
Because you need to go down from the x-axis.
Very good. Yeah, good. So just like this picture, my x-axis, I had to go up 25 degrees from, or sorry, in that case, it was 63 degrees, up 63 degrees from the x-axis. It's the exact same concept. This is going down that 25 degrees, but this is also going down that 25 degrees. Okay. So I'm sorry, hang on a second. I had a little bit of a, let me get back to my video. There we go. So how then, Victor, you said to do 180 plus the positive version of the 25, right?
Uh-huh.
I would strongly recommend on this one, guys, because you're going to have to do this twice. I would recommend that you store this number. Okay. So you guys remember how to store things on your calculator? Right up above the on button. Look, see how above the on button it says STO, S-T-O? So if you push that button, your screen now says, your calculator screen says answer arrow. You just have to name it. And it's expecting you to use a letter to name it. So you'll have to choose the alpha button. So like, I'll just call it alpha A. There's no thetas here that I can name it. So I'll say alpha A. And A, if you'll notice, is right up above the math button.
And what are we talking about storing?
This number, the negative 25-degree number.
Okay.
Storing the whole thing. By the way, storing numbers is going to really come in handy in chapter 11. So this is a good time to learn it anyway. And then if you push enter, it's just going to spit the number out at you again. But the cool thing is that anytime you want to use this number in the future, all you have to do is type in alpha A. You don't have to type in the whole string of numbers. Okay. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to, now you do have to think of it as a positive though. What we just stored was a negative number. So I'm going to do 180. If I just do plus, it'll actually be typing in 180 plus negative. So I'm going to do 180 minus so that it will be minus a negative because I actually want to add the 25 to the 180. So I'm going to do 180 minus alpha A. So what theta did that give you?
205, 5277.
Yeah. So just make sure that your answer really does land in the third quadrants. And then I'm also going to go back to how am I going to get my fourth quadrant angle?
360 plus your stored number.
Yeah, 360 plus my stored number. And we're doing plus because my stored number is already negative. So that's when I type it in, it's actually going to be 360 minus my 25. But type in plus. And I got on that one 334.4723, which is truly a fourth quadrant angle. Okay. Does that make sense, everyone?
Yes.
Okay. So let's do this, folks. Let's go ahead and talk about the test. Let me pull up that schedule again. I have been racking my brain, trying to figure out exactly how I'm going to run this. So obviously with this whole semester, we've had to get creative in what we're doing. So, you know, we are, I don't know about you guys, but I think the hardest thing about what we're doing is that we don't have a feeling of control. We're not in control right now. I kind of feel like whatever's going on with this virus is taking control of my life.
Seriously.
And right. But, you know, even if I'm not in control, that doesn't mean that we're at the end of the world, folks. So this, I don't feel like this is the apocalypse. We are just going to do the best that we can. And I know I've told you that already before, but we're going to do the best that we can with what we have. So in the last several days, heavily over this weekend, I've been talking to some of my math colleagues to see what they're doing about testing. We've been sharing ideas with each other. If you've just joined us, I am going to be proctoring your test via video. So basically what you're going to need two devices to take your test. So let's just start with that. I'm going to test on my lab. Okay. I know that that's not ideal, but again, it's almost impossible to test with a paper test. Okay. So just understand that right now, the good news is at least you guys have been using my lab. So you are familiar with my lab. There's a lot of classes who are jumping into my lab testing and they've never used my lab a single day of the semester. And so remember how at the beginning of the semester, you guys were just figuring out how do I type in answers, etc. So at least you guys don't have to go through the learning curve of, dealing with my lab. So the plan is for me to test on my lab instead of testing on paper. So that means that you will have to have 2 devices. I want your phone so that I can ask you to show me the room, show me your workspace, show me, your computer, etc. So your phone is basically going to be the proctoring part of that. And the computer is going to be what you're working on. So, so that's how I'm going to run, the test. I haven't decided yet. Well, okay, let's talk about the test date next. I am going to bump the test until after spring break. Okay. But so this is why I have the schedule up. Not so much because you guys need it, but this is actually a financial decision. I know that sounds crazy, but you know how with Zoom, I only get 40 minutes and I am not dealing with you guys getting a break in the middle of the test simply so that you can re-sign into Zoom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to purchase 1 month of Zoom. And no, just in case you're wondering, the school is not going to reimburse me. This is coming out of my own pocket. So I'm going to, well, it's okay. To me, it's worth it to try to make the testing work. So since I only get 1 month, exams go all the way till May 2nd. So I can't sign up for that month of Zoom until April 2nd or 3rd. Okay, so I'm going to sign up for a paid subscription for Zoom during spring break, and that will give me 1 full month to work with. And so I will test after spring break. It really is a financial decision. I realize it's probably not the best for you guys, but I felt like it was worth purchasing so that you guys didn't have a break in the middle of your Zoom conference for a test.
So are we gonna be doing anything past 10.5 this week?
So that's the
would it
next
just
thing.
be like the same?
That's the next thing, Jonathan. So I don't want to get behind on this. And so what I'm going to do is that I'm going to work really hard to get an 11.1 video done. So basically what's going to happen here is I'm going to trade these 2 days. I'm going to trade these 2 days. Again, I know that that's not ideal, but that's what I'm going to do. So 11.1, I will go ahead and make a video for that. I will open up a Zoom conference on Wednesday for any questions on 11.1. And then you guys will have your spring break. You're still able to contact me as you need to during spring break, but we won't be having any conferences over spring break. And then when we get back on April 6th, we'll have the test. Okay, so those 2 days will be traded. Does that make sense, Jonathan?
I guess, but why? If the test on MATLAB, why would we need to do the Zoom?
So I can proctor it. So here's an example, Jonathan. If you were somebody who was struggling in my class, you could just pay somebody to take your test for you. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I don't know. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
So because of that, then I want to see you guys working. Just like I stare at you while you're taking a test in the classroom. So
Okay.
it's not personal. It's just the best thing that I know to do. And for the record, folks, if you guys have a different suggestion that you think would work just as well, I would be happy to entertain that.
So would the MAT5 test, would it be similar to the demonstration where you get like multiple attempts?
No. No. Not only that, Jonathan, you will not even know if you get
Well, no,
a
I mean
question.
like within the question it says like.
No, listen, Jonathan, you're not even going to know if you got the question right or not when you submit it.
Oh,
So the
it's
way
like
that
the extra credit stuff. Because the one you can't like look and you can't check it.
Okay, correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yep. So once you are, I haven't quite decided how I'm going to do it when the test is over. Eventually, I will give you the rights to go back and look at what you did wrong. But the only thing that's going to be presented to you when you're finished taking the test is the score you got on the test. Okay. Now, when you see that score, folks, you're going to freak out about it because it's always lower than what you actually earn. So here's the second part, and this is a really important part. In order to gain credit for any question, I hope you're hearing me, because even if you get a question right, I can still mark it wrong if you don't send me work for that.
Okay, yeah, because that's what I was thinking. Like, you've been grading our work in addition
That's
to the
correct.
answers.
That's correct. So there's two things that can happen. Your grade could drop because you show me no work at all. And so or even if it's just on one problem, if you show me no work for a problem, I will give you no credit, period. I have to see your work. The second thing is that because of partial credit, and what is more common is that I add points to your score because of the partial credit. So let's talk about how to submit your partial credit. For those of you that have an iPhone, if you go to the Notes app in your iPhone and you open the camera, and I would suggest that you try this before the test. If you open the camera inside of a note, it will ask you if you want to scan a document, and it's going to turn it into a PDF. That's going to be the easiest thing for iPhone users. If you are not an iPhone user, can you guys help me out with this? Do you guys have a document scanner on Android phones? Anybody?
I know OneDrive. You can do it on OneDrive.
Okay.
And that's for iPhone as well.
Okay. All right. So yeah, if anybody has a suggestion for Android users, I'm open to the suggestion. And by the way, the iPhone thing is also for iPads. So if you have an iPad, you can do the same. I tried it the other day. Super, 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 super easy.
And how'd you say we did it?
So you just open the Notes app that is already on the iPad or the iPhone.
Oh, Notes. Okay.
Notes. Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
And then there's...
So just taking a picture of it wouldn't be an option?
So, Jonathan, sometimes when you guys send me a picture, I can't read it. It's too blurry.
I mean, like, well, yeah, I guess, but... Right.
So you can try that, Jonathan, but if I can't read it, I can't give you credit.
I mean, like, I would definitely try to organize it more as compared to, like, normally.
Yeah. Oh, you guys better organize it. Oh my word. So if I can't find it, I'm not gonna. This is gonna take me longer to grade. I hope you understand that. So if I can't even find your question, I'm gonna assume there isn't any work for it. But Jonathan, I actually wasn't talking about organization I assumed you guys were going to be organized. I wasn't talking about organization. I was actually more talking about, I can't read it because it's too blurry. Like when you send it to me, the file is compressed and I actually can't read it because it's blurry or it's too small. So the easiest documents for me to read that you guys send me are PDF documents. Does that explain it a little further, Jonathan?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, like, could we send it double just in case they're like send as a PDF and then send like a picture through email?
Yeah. Yes.
I don't know. I'm definitely gonna start. I'm gonna try that PDF thing because I want to make sure.
Yeah, please attempt this before the test. You've got time since I've bumped the date for the test, so please attempt it before we get to the test.
Yeah, I just did it with the notes. It works pretty well.
Yeah, it does. It does.
And
it works very well.
wait, what would you want us to send the PDF through?
Either email or text. I don't really care.
Okay.
These days, I'm just happy if I can get something readable.
You can receive it through the text message?
Yep.
Well, the only reason I was saying that is because it's for you. It's Remind, so it might not appear the same way.
It should. Because I can send you guys PDFs, I would assume that I can receive PDFs. But if that doesn't work, we'll resort to email. Either one's fine.
I have a question about the actual my lab testing.
Okay, Victor, go ahead. No, was that Victor or was that Kevin?
It was me.
Okay, hey Victor.
So on demonstrates, whenever you submit a answer, I just use like enter to submit the answer after I'm done typing it. And if I accidentally like type in some kind of extra letter or something, it's gonna get it wrong. And the test, if I like, does it automatically submit, or like do I submit the whole test at the end? Like do I need to submit each question after I finish it, or do I need to submit the whole test?
So the way that a test works is you actually just go to the next question and then you submit the whole test.
So I can edit my answers if like
I believe so. Yeah, you can go back to a question. Mm-hmm. And the other thing too on that, Victor, is even if you didn't realize that that's something that you did, remember that I'll be looking at your paperwork. So if your paperwork matches, or if your paperwork is slightly different from the answer you entered, and I can tell, hey, on the paperwork, he didn't have an X in there, but on his submitted work, he threw in an X accidentally. I think that must have been a mistake. Then I can give that partial credit back.
Okay, cool.
So that's why it's even more important to show your work on paper. Any other questions on that? I think what I'll do, folks, is I'll send out an email. It probably isn't going to occur until during spring break. I'll send out an email with instructions. It's probably going to be a fairly lengthy email. Again, just because we've never done it this way before. So it'll probably be lengthy, but it'll have all of the instructions about what I need you guys to do, how I need you to show your work, how I want you to submit your work, how fast I want you to submit your work, etc. So, you will be submitting your work right after the test. If you wait a whole day, I'm probably not going to accept it. So it's those kinds of things. But I still have to think through a lot of that. And so basically moving the test till after spring break, I'm buying myself a little time to think through everything that might go wrong, as well as the financial decision on that. Okay. Do you guys have any other questions?
So, yes, back to the question I asked earlier about the formula sheet.
Mm-hmm. So that's part of what's going to go in this email, Ryan. I'll go ahead and be honest with you. I'm thinking about making it an open note test.
Okay.
So if it's an open note test, now don't get all excited, folks, but if it's an open note test, number one, you won't need a formula sheet. The downside of an open note test is I'm probably going to make the actual test slightly more challenging.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm giving you your notes to work with, the challenge level is going to be raised. Okay, so just be aware of that.
Right, okay.
But I'm not going to, yes, I'm going to be proctoring you to make sure it's really you taking the test. But I'm not going to dictate, you know, as far as, I cannot possibly make everybody have a cleaned off desk and keep it cleaned off throughout the entire test. That's just too challenging. So I probably will make it open note. Unless I come up with a good plan in between now and then. All right. Any other questions that you guys have?
So it'd still be like the class time, like an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah. That's the plan. If you guys have picked up extra hours and you need an alternative test time, it would have to be on the same day, but I am willing to work with you as far as an alternative test time. But you and I would need to talk about that individually. Okay, so, and you're gonna don't you dare text me or email me, you know, 3 minutes before the test and say, hey, Ms. Roberts, I need an alternative test time. We need to have something set up. I would say within the next few days, and we'll have that on the calendar, and that would be the test time that you and I would have. Okay, so if that's something that's necessary, I am willing to work with you. So just let me know on that. But Jonathan, yes, basically, for right now, we'll plan on that Monday from 9:30 to 10:50 for your test period.
If our internet goes out while we're taking the test, are we able to go back in?
I believe so. But remember, I'll be right there on Zoom, so I should be able to help you out with that.
Not if the internet goes out, because like the Zoom will also go out.
But the Zoom would be on your phone. And wouldn't your phone be going off of, couldn't your phone be going off of data?
That's true. That on.
Unless you've ran out of data.
Yeah. So, Victor, do you feel like that might be an issue?
I don't think so, because they usually
Okay, but just in case. Yeah. So hopefully with 2 devices running, we can troubleshoot if we need to. And that's the other thing. I want to be there if you need me. So. Anything else that you have? So as always, you can text me, you can email me. I will answer your text. I will answer your emails. So there were 2 of you that I actually did ignore, and I have an apology to make to you. So let's see, Andrew, you asked me some questions via email, but it was mostly for today, and so I figured you would ask those. So, but I apologize that I didn't answer your email. Jonathan, I ignored your text message last night, and I'm just going to be really transparent with you guys. As of Saturday night, I had put in over 54 hours this week, just from Monday through Saturday. So quite frankly, by the time I got to Sunday evening, I was ready to just chill. So I didn't answer all of the text messages that came through from my math colleagues, all those math teachers, I ignored. You weren't the only one I ignored, Jonathan. So in front of everyone, cool. I want to apologize.
Sunday is the day to chill.
Yeah.
I feel you.
Yeah. So, and I still put in 2 hours on Sunday without intending to, because I sat down. I'm like, ooh, I need to write my MAT111 real quick. And then it was, ooh, let's answer this email. And ooh, after 2 hours, I was like, no, you need to put everything down and you need to take a break for your sanity. So, but anyway, but yeah, please send me texts, send me emails. I will get to you as soon as I am able to get to you guys. Okay. Any other questions? Last call. Okay, folks. So I actually have class again today until 2 o'clock. So I won't be able to start working on an 11.1 video until after 2 o'clock. So that will go out. My goal is for it to go out sometime this evening. And then you should have that watched by Wednesday. And then we'll have the test when we come back from spring break. But I will put up another Zoom conference for Wednesday. For the record, I don't need to send you another invitation. Just use the invitation that I sent today. That meeting code and that password will get you into a meeting for Wednesday. So if I don't send you an invitation, that's why. Okay? All right, folks. Have a good couple days. Please make sure that you're getting your work done. One of my goals today, one of the things on my to-do list, is to go into my lab and be your big brother and start checking up on you to see how much time you've been spending in my lab. And I am going to be attaching some attendance to that. So just be aware, I'm going to be checking up on you later on this afternoon. So again, if you've got any questions, just let me know, okay?
Oh, actually, wait, hold on. In the email you talked about some kind of question. You were gonna ask for attendance.
Yeah. I think I'm just going to do that through my lab instead, Victor. That's another thing I've been racking my brain about what's the best way to do that. At least for today and Wednesday, I'm going to be looking at my lab for attendance. If you've been working in my lab, what I consider a sufficient amount of time, by the way, less than 15 minutes isn't sufficient. But if you've been working in my lab for what I consider a sufficient amount of time, I'll give you attendance. Okay. So good question.
So all I got to do is just leave my lab open all night.
Oh, Victor!
But what if we're on the Zoom conference? Doesn't that count?
Not everybody can make the Zoom conference, Jonathan.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying the people on it get attendance.
Yeah, I'm still trying to work through that.
I'll take some extra credit.
Yeah, so I did.
Like a good idea.
I know. So, Jonathan, I did take screenshots of everybody who's in the Zoom conference so that I have that on file, on record. And so that was my original plan, but then I know that there's a lot of people who actually cannot make it because they've taken on extra hours, or they're at work and they can't really pay attention that much. So if you are not able to pay attention so much, then you're not really, present, if you know what I mean. So I'm working on it. It'll be whatever I choose to do will be what I deem fair. It won't be unreasonable. So, and it'll try to get everybody involved, not just the people who can make it. All right. Okay, guys. Have a great day, and I will see you on Wednesday for probably a short Zoom conference, I'm assuming. Okay?
Okay.
Have a good one. Bye, guys.
Bye.